All right, you've really sent us a head-scratcher this time. The age-old chicken or the egg dilemma.
A classic.
And to make it even more interesting, you're wondering if eggs are vegetarian or not.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Well, get ready to explore, because we're taking a deep dive into evolution, surprising facts, and maybe even some ethical food for thought, all thanks to a YouTube video by Dhruv Rathee that you sent our way.
Excellent source. I'm familiar with Dhruv Rathee's work. His video, Chicken or Egg, What Came First? Are eggs veg or non-veg? Does a great job breaking this down.
So to crack this case wide open, Dhruv takes us way back, like way back to the time of dinosaurs.
Which is a great place to start, surprisingly enough. Because believe it or not, birds are essentially modern-day dinos.
Whoa, hold on. Dinosaurs? Are you telling me my pet parakeet is somehow related to a T-Rex?
Distantly, sure. Around 150 million years ago, some dinosaur species started to shrink over many, many generations.
So, like, they got smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and they kept evolving until, well, they eventually became the birds we know today.
Mind-blowing.
It is wild. The video even uses the example of T-Rex and ostriches sharing a common ancestor.
No way.
Evolution isn't a straight line, though. It's more like a branching tree, going off in all sorts of unexpected directions.
So we've got these dinosaurs, big and small, roaming around. Were they already laying eggs back then?
Oh, absolutely. Creatures have been laying eggs for a long, long time, about 375 million years, according to the video.
375 million years. That's way before my time.
Way before mine, too, but there's a catch. Those ancient eggs weren't like the hard-shelled ones we picture today.
What were they like?
Think more along the lines of fish eggs.
Fish eggs. So soft and delicate.
Exactly. It took a while for those tough, hard-shelled eggs to evolve.
All right, so how did we get from those soft, delicate eggs to the ones we can easily scramble up for breakfast?
That's where it gets really fascinating. The video explains that hard-shelled eggs, like the ones chickens lay, actually evolved around 300 million years ago.
300 million years ago. But hold on, didn't you say chickens themselves evolved much later?
Exactly. And that's where the whole chicken or egg debate takes a turn. Chickens, as we know them, only popped up on the scene around 3,500 years ago.
So in the grand scheme of things, chickens are relatively new to the game.
Relatively speaking, yes. Chickens descended from wild red junglefowl in Southeast Asia.
Junglefowl.
Yes, and those junglefowls were drawn to early human settlements, probably because of the easy access to grains and food scraps.
So agriculture accidentally helped create chickens.
It's possible. Humans began domesticating these junglefowl around 1500 BC, and through selective breeding over time.
We made chickens.
We made chickens.
Wow. Who knew chickens had such a wild backstory? But let's get back to the heart of the matter. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, considering the timeline we've just laid out,
Pun intended.
maybe. But considering the timeline, it's pretty clear that the egg takes the trophy in this race.
Okay, so the first chicken egg was laid by something like a chicken, but not quite a chicken.
It's kind of like evolution's way of saying, gotcha. Evolution isn't about giant leaps, you know? It's really a gradual process, a long series of tiny, tiny changes that happen over many, many generations.
It's like a long game of telephone almost.
Exactly. Each generation passes on its traits with slight modifications. It's a game changer when you think about it that way. We're all a product of millions of years of those little tweaks, you and I.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. But let's bring it back to the present day, to my breakfast plate. Are the eggs I eat vegetarian or not?
Excellent question. Dhruv tackles that too. He talks about two types of eggs, haploid and diploid.
Haploid and diploid. Those sound seriously scientific.
They are, but they're not that complicated, really. Think of haploid eggs as the independent ones. They contain only female sex cells and can't develop into a chick on their own.
So like a solo act.
Precisely. Diploid eggs are a different story. They're like a power couple. They've got both male and female genetic material, which is what's needed to, well, create a chick.
So those are the ones that could hatch if they were fertilized.
That's right. But then things get even wilder because Dhruv brings up something called parthenogenesis.
What?
Parthenogenesis. It means virgin creation. It's when some plants and animals can reproduce without fertilization. No male needed.
Seriously, is that even possible?
It is. Dhruv mentions Komodo dragons as an example. A female Komodo dragon can lay a clutch of eggs without any help from a male.
Whoa, girl power. But before I freak out that my fridge is harboring a baby chick, do chickens do that? Can they reproduce through this parthenogenesis?
Don't worry, your breakfast is safe. Chickens can't reproduce through parthenogenesis. They need a rooster for that.
Okay, that's a relief. And what about those blood spots you sometimes see in eggs? Does that mean they were fertilized?
Not at all. Those blood spots are totally normal. They're just a tiny blood vessel that might have ruptured while the hen was laying the egg.
So nothing to worry about there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that most of the eggs we eat are those independent haploid eggs, the ones that aren't fertilized. Does that mean they're generally considered vegetarian?
That's a big part of what Dhruv Rathee is arguing in his video, yes. He even points out that Mahatma Gandhi considered unfertilized eggs to be akin to milk.
Interesting. Okay, but what about the nutritional side of things?
Well, Dhruv makes sure to mention that eggs are nutritional powerhouses. They're packed with protein, tons of vitamins B12, B2, B5, A, D, E, the list goes on.
They sound like a multivitamin you can eat.
Right. And don't forget minerals like selenium, calcium, iron, even antioxidants.
Okay, so eggs are good for you. But this whole conversation makes me think, don't chickens these days lay way more eggs than they would naturally?
You're totally onto something. It all comes down to something called artificial selection.
Artificial selection.
Wait.
So like not natural selection.
Exactly. Think back to those wild jungle fowl, the ancestors of our modern chickens. Over many generations, humans have selectively bred them to emphasize certain traits, like, you guessed it, laying more eggs.
So we've kind of engineered them into being egg-laying machines.
In a way, yes. Dhruv uses the example of cows being bred for higher milk production. But this selective breeding isn't limited to animals. Look at all the different types of fruits and vegetables we have today.
True. Like I bet you wouldn't find a seedless watermelon in the wild.
Exactly. Dhruv points out how broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, they all came from the same wild mustard plant.
Get out of here.
It's true. All those different veggies are a result of thousands of years of artificial selection by humans.
So it sounds like our supermarket eggs are very different from anything a dinosaur might have laid.
That's one way to put it. And that difference all circles back to artificial selection.
It really makes you think about where our food comes from.
It does. And Dhruv doesn't stop there. He even talks about how bananas used to be full of big, hard seeds.
Wait, seriously? Those perfectly sweet yellow bananas we have now.
Those are the ones. We've selectively bred them over time to be seedless and much more appealing to eat.
That's wild. It's like humans have gone from hunter-gatherers to, I don't know, genetic engineers of our food.
It's a fascinating transition to think about. Dhruv highlights that this shift toward agriculture, which really took off around 12,000 years ago, was a pivotal turning point in human history.
So how did we go from searching for food to basically reshaping entire species of plants and animals?
Dhruv uses the example of wheat to illustrate this. Think back around 10,000 years ago. Wheat was just one of many wild grasses you might find in the Middle East.
Right, it was nothing special.
Exactly. But as humans started cultivating it, well, we didn't just domesticate wheat in a way, domesticated us.
Wait, hold on. Did wheat start demanding we build it tiny furniture or something?
Not quite, but wheat needs specific conditions to thrive. It doesn't like competition from other plants, and it needs a good amount of water and sunlight and soil that's been cleared of rocks and obstacles.
So to successfully grow wheat, humans had to change the environment to fit wheat's needs.
That's it. We cleared forests, we created irrigation systems to make sure it had enough water, we spent hours upon hours tilling and weeding the soil, all so we could have a successful wheat harvest.
It's almost poetic, this idea that we became so intertwined with wheat, that we reshaped our world to accommodate it.
It is. And the author Yuval Noah Harari, you might know him from his book Sapiens, he argues that this domestication of wheat was this huge turning point. We shifted from living in harmony with nature to bending nature to our will.
Which has had its downsides, for sure.
It's true. There's no denying that.
Wow, this deep dive has been amazing. We started with this age-old riddle about which came first, and we've ended up in this huge conversation about evolution, ethics, and the impact of humans on the planet.
It just shows the power of a simple question and where it can take us.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We started with this fun little chicken and egg riddle, and somehow we've gone from dinosaurs to ethical dilemmas about breakfast.
It's pretty amazing where curiosity can lead, right? But to circle back to those initial questions, we've definitely established that the egg came first. And as for your omelets, you're good to go. Those are most likely vegetarian friendly.
That's good to know. Though I have to admit, it's not just about the chickens and eggs for me anymore. This whole concept of artificial selection has really stuck with me. It's fascinating, but also a little bit, I don't know, unsettling.
I get it. It's a powerful tool, And like any tool, it can be used for good or for, well, not so good. We've been able to reshape the world around us, breed plants and animals with specific traits in mind. And that has led to some undeniably positive outcomes.
Like being able to feed a rapidly growing population.
Exactly. But then there's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, the part where maybe we've gone a bit too far.
We've changed entire ecosystems, sometimes with unintended consequences. Take the Dust Bowl, for example. That was a stark reminder that messing with nature's balance can have serious consequences.
Definitely a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So for our listener who's sending these awesome questions that really got us thinking, what would you say is the big takeaway here?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the realization that even the simplest questions can send us down these rabbit holes of discovery. We've gone from dinosaurs to chickens, from wild grasses to vast fields of wheat. It really highlights how interconnected everything is, and how our choices, even something as basic as what we have for breakfast, can have these ripple effects.
So well said. And it all comes back to this idea of artificial selection. We see its impact everywhere, from those eggs in our fridge to the seedless bananas we love. It makes you wonder, how far is too far? Is artificial selection a tool we should be using? Is it unnecessary evil? Or something in between?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that doesn't have an easy answer. But it's a conversation worth having. And hopefully this deep dive has given everyone, including us, plenty to think about.
It definitely has. So to our listener, we leave you with this. What are your thoughts on artificial selection? We'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, keep those questions coming, because sometimes the most fascinating journeys begin with a simple what if.